Many years have passed since a fellowship of light battled the shadow creature at the Grey Havens. Now the heroes find themselves in an unknown land where they discover a man in black is wreaking havoc. Undeath follows him wherever he goes, and long-forgotten legends rise again, having been possessed by his evil. Join the players of this Dungeons & Dragons campaign as they attempt to stop the man in black as he collects artifacts both on and off the Lonely Isle. Welcome to Tol Eressëa in Part 2 of the Inglorion Bastards trilogy, Rise of the Mormegil.
Alright, welcome everybody to episode 85 of the Inglorion Bastards campaign. With me tonight I have my my long-lost friend Spriggz back to talk about his character Burin. I haven't interviewed him solo since part 1. So Spriggz, we're going to talk a little bit about Burin tonight and a little bit about your understanding of the story thus far in part 2, Rise of the Mormegil. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, so we'll start right off with backtracking a bit by about maybe 30 episodes. When you guys first decided to come over after the great battle at the Grey Havens against oh gosh, why am I blanking? So against the Shadow, right? The Shadow turned into a Balrog, right? And then you guys kind of defeated it. Riken closed the portal and disappeared. And then you realized this was just the beginning. So can you talk a little bit about why, like what, I know why some of the other characters came over, but tell me sort of like, give us a heart-to-heart here with Burin. Why did he decide to seek out Tol Eressëa and get on one of Círdan's ships?
I think while playing the campaign, at the end of it, when Riken went through the portal and like closed it, Burin was hoping that everything was finished because he had plans that he wanted to follow through on that was in Middle Earth. But I think part of him thought that that fight wasn't over, that there was still something coming that was going to happen. And as you find out watching the rest of it, we were the cause of it all. I think that's one of the coolest things about this campaign is like we're the heroes trying to save everybody, but we also caused a lot of the second part of the campaign.
Yeah, and there's that old saying about causing the thing that you're trying to prevent, right? But in this case, it's really true. But at the same time, you have to wonder how much of this stuff was predestined. I mean, the second prophecy of Mandos talks explicitly about kind of the end of the world, right? And as the listener at this point, they know like that's where this is heading. So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, yeah, you guys might have released that shadow, but how much of this was predestined?
Right. Yeah.
So Burin. So why did Burin come over? You because you guys caused it, and you felt like he felt like obligated to sort of.
Yeah. I think he felt obligated to continue searching for the shadow because it wasn't really gone. It just went to a different area, and I think he kind of felt bad about Riken. Because, him and Riken were buddies. They were in the first camp or the first episode together, and I just think that he felt obligated that he really needed to go, and he had grown really close to the rest of the party, which is not really the way Burin would be usually. He spent so much time with them, felt pretty connected. Yeah.
So I'm going to take away two things from that. The whole like feeling kind of responsible for the shadow and possibly feeling close to the group, and especially Riken, who had sacrificed himself at the Grey Havens, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so I mean, we can kind of go right into this. I guess that would lead me to my next question is about Burin in particular. Like how has he changed over the course of the last almost 35 episodes? How would you say he's changed? I mean, and you can take it even like a 10,000 foot view if you want, like over the course of the 80 episodes or so.
He's definitely changed a lot because in the beginning, it's hard to like create a persona for your character and like stay in it the whole time. But he he definitely wasn't one to like trust people right away, and Riken was the only person he really had a relationship with in the very beginning. And I feel like now he's so close and really tight-knit with this group, and I feel like he has changed a lot on his goals. Like, originally you and I had talked about, like, would Burin go to Amon, like, at the end of the first part of the campaign? And originally you and I had talked about him going back and helping Balin take back Morga.
Right.
And I think that's probably the main part of him that has changed, is his willingness to give up what he really wanted to do for the greater good, and like to go to Amon and to chase down this shadow that they partially feel like they're responsible for releasing onto Amon. And I think most of his growth was spiritually and mentally. I mean, physically he hasn't changed any. The characters played the same basically the entire time. He was just a badass. I mean, rage out and just hit things. I think that his mindset and like his goals had changed a lot between the first part of the campaign and the second part.
Okay. Well, did you? You knew you were chasing the shadow, but in these last like 30 or so episodes, did you have any idea that the Man in Black was related with the shadow, or what were your thoughts on that guy?
So I think that we all kind of like thought that might be what it was at some point. But one of the funniest things in the whole second part of the campaign is how we kept accusing Morloma of being black because he dressed in what he calls dark gray.
Right.
But I thought that was one of the funniest things that happened in Dark Game. Like no one trusted him for the longest time because everybody thought that he was the Man in Black, because he came in during the second part of the campaign and wasn't one of like the original characters. And I thought that was one of the funniest things.
That was good.
I wouldn't say that we knew that he was the Shadow was the Man in the Black, but we had our suspicion about it.
Yeah. So, where the listener is at this point, you guys have just celebrated the birth of flowers, the Nostnolothian celebration at Aqualunde with King Olwe, and at this point you found out from Idril and Tuor at the Tower of Pearl that the Man in Black is Turin Turambar, and that the shadow that possessed Turin Turambar has a name. His name is Gwarthaur. And so at this point in the campaign, the listeners and the characters too know that the Man in Black, Turin Turambar, and the shadow are essentially one being at this point. All right, so let's talk about. I like to ask people their favorites, like their favorite parts, and so I'll just leave it open to you. If you want to talk a little bit about possibly like your favorite NPC or your favorite scene, maybe.
I really liked some of the Hapless episodes. I thought those were really fun.
Yeah.
I always like the anything that's like puzzles. I enjoy like non-combat D&D. I enjoy like puzzles and like opening chests for loot and getting trapped and things like that. I think that's what makes it fun. So the Stone of the Hapless was really fun, and then was it the tentacle monster on the bridge? Is that what that was?
Oh, back in part one, or
was it part one? Was there one in part two that we did too?
So the Watcher at Tharbad, right? That was back in part one, and where Christian's character almost died. Is there a different?
It was the Shadowy Seas monster, the one where we were on the boat.
Oh gosh, yes, that was hysterical.
Like that was a lot of fun. I liked that episode a lot. And then
that's right.
Gil Fannin was probably the coolest NPC, just because he's an actual Tolkien character that doesn't have a lot of information on him. He was just the guy at the House of 100 Chimneys. Wasn't he the one that told the story to the Children of Lost Play, or the village, or the Cottage of Lost Play?
So yeah, very close. So Gil Fannin was the guy that Ariel sat down and told the history of the elves to. And you guys came there right after you had been at the Cottage of Lost Play, where you met Lindo and Vare. Yeah, I was just sorry. I have to comment on the whole tentacle monster thing. Look at, I might have to like lay on Freud's couch after this or something, and really like analyze myself, because I'm thinking back to all the tentacle monsters, and I'm thinking maybe I have a problem. There's a lot of creatures with tentacles. I didn't even know that was a thing, but apparently
there definitely was. And I love the fact that I was able to get bareback for Riken. I thought that was one of the cool kind of like non-story driven things that happened, but it really pleased one of the PCs.
Yeah, I bet the listeners might not have even caught that. So you were talking about the Stone of the Hapless episode, right? So when you guys traveled from the Tower of Pearl, you guys immersed yourself in that pool, and Idril and Tuor told you, make sure you're really focused on where you want to go, because this pool will take you anywhere you want to go, or it also answers the desires of your heart in terms of loved ones, and that was kind of left open-ended, and I think I threw that in there mostly because we had talked when you wanted to do something nice for Riken, because poor Riken had just a terrible, I mean, it was a great sort of progression for his character, but just he lost Bear like 3 times, and you wanted to do something nice for him. So I think what happened was when you immersed yourself in the pool, you're thinking about the location, but you're also thinking about getting Bear back for Riken, and then he shows up as Undead Bear, so you kind of got your wish.
Yeah, and speaking back to the growth of Burin, I the growth of Riken outshines everybody's like real growth like as a character, because he changed so much, like had such a hard time in the first part of the story, like with his father and his crazy brother, and Bear dying multiple times, and then he's the one that sacrificed himself. Then when we find him in the second part of the campaign, he's completely different, and his character has such a rich like backstory, and it was so cool to like watch it play out, because those things aren't like predetermined. Like we weren't like, oh, so you're gonna sacrifice yourself and then you're gonna start breathing smoke in the second part of this campaign.
Right.
And I thought that was one of the coolest growth moments of this entire campaign, was just Riken in general.
Yeah, and Josh did a great job playing him. Mm-hmm. Was it hard as a player playing a sort of the lone barbarian, the tank in part 1? Was it weird having another barbarian in the mix? Because that's the way Josh kind of reskinned Riken in the second part of the campaign. Was it odd having a second tank?
It was surprising, but it was really good for us, because adding more PCs to the game means there's going to be more monsters and larger fights to make it, interesting. And I think having a second person that can just stand in front of something and take damage is, it's invaluable, really.
Yeah.
And it really fit Riken because of all the changes he went through. And Riken, he was a warden, is that right, in the first part?
I think so, yeah.
He was awful. I mean, I don't know if his dice were broken, but he was awful. I mean, I don't know if he did more than 30 damage the entire first part of the campaign.
Yeah.
But he was so much more useful in the second part because he reskinned and all the changes that happened to him during the first part.
Yeah, agreed. Well, just a couple more questions for you here. Let's see. So at this point, we're past the halfway point in the campaign, obviously, by probably 8 episodes or so, or 9 episodes. And I wonder, as a player, did you have? I mean, we've been reading. I think at this point, you guys had uncovered the second part of the second prophecy of Mandos. You had, I think, Gilfanon told you the first part, and then Merrill at Quarterion told you the second part. And I had broken it into 4 pieces, so you would discover it slowly. At this point, Turin Turnbar is supposed to be the one to kill Morgoth. Did you guys, as a player, did you have any idea sort of like how you would get there to this battle with Morgoth?
Not really, no. We felt we knew what we were looking for and like where we needed to go, but how it was all going to play out was still kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
I mean, like, all the way up till episode 78 or something, when we found out that Turnbar was the Man in Black, and that the Man in Black that he was possessed by the shadow, and that's why his sarcophagus was open.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of gave us some direction. Like, okay, so we need to continue following this guy, and we need to catch him. Like, we need to figure this out. That was our main goal, right? I mean, there was a lot of things that happened along the way, and there's a lot of other things that we were doing, like trying to find the mallet for...
Tombo. The mallet of Tombo for Little Heart?
Yeah, for Little Heart. Like, we had other things that we were trying to do, but I think we all knew that, the Man in Black was our goal. That's what we needed to be.
Yeah, well, the listener doesn't know exactly where this is heading. I mean, it's going to come to a head here fairly soon in probably about 10 episodes. And so they'll discover it pretty quickly. I did want to say, and I'm sad to say this, but this may be the last time that I interview you solo in this trilogy, and that's because you needed to step away for part 3 of this. So we had somebody else playing Burin, which was both bad and good. Obviously, you knew Burin inside and out, but it also, his character kind of took a turn in the third part, and you discover way more about him. I mean, so tell us how did that was that tough to like step away from the character at that point? Yeah, so I mean, we invested a lot of time. I mean, we were however many episodes into this, doing it every week, and 3 and 4 hours at a time, and it's hard to step away from something that you're doing consistently, and like there's still a yearning for like what's going to happen and like what's coming up. But at the time, that was whenever my wife had Evan, and so I knew that sectioning out that part of time may be difficult, and I was never one of the players that wanted to not be there. Right. Right. Like if I couldn't be there, I'd rather just not be there at all. Like I want someone else to play my character because I feel like he was a big part of the story, and he's been around for so long. So yeah, it was tough. It was fun reading our hangout chat and like catching things that were happening from you guys, and when I made my guest appearance at the end of the campaign. That was always fun. Yeah, that is definitely something to look forward to. I'm just looking here. So the final battle is going to be... Yeah, I think the final battle's just in probably 15 episodes or something, and pretty close to that. We'll do the full cast reunion, and sort of we'll talk about that. I will say, though, you might not join us after this in Spirit of Burin. You do make another secret appearance that I think you alluded to, and we'll save that. We'll save that as a mystery for the listener.
Exactly.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. So we'll talk to you in I don't know, give or take 15 episodes for the full cast reunion for part 2. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. Don't forget, it's all about the decks.
It's all about the decks.
All about the decks.
Thank you. We'll talk to you.
All right, see you.
Though this marks the end of the episode, the road goes ever on. Until next time, join us at longwinded.one and consider giving us a review on Apple Music, Spotify, or really whichever platform you choose.